Hello and welcome to On Point. I'm Anna Logan. This year's Oscars are making headlines again. For the second year in a row, no Black people were nominated in any major category. People in the industry and moviegoers are calling for a boycott of this year's broadcast, saying it's time for the Academy to make a change. The issue is being dissected and discussed on all media platforms, and with good reason. The Bunch Center for African American Studies at UCLA says minorities have had half as many lead roles as whites, direct half as many Hollywood productions, and write only a third as many. Only 35 awards have been given to Black actors and actresses in the Academy's 87-year history. Halle Berry is the only person of color who has ever won Best Actress. The Oscars committee has over 6,000 members. 94% of them are white, 77% of them are men, and 86% of them are over the age of 50. We asked CSUN students what they think about the Oscars and its lack of ethnic representation, and if they think society is actually progressing towards equality.
I see it as a little unfair to at least not even give them a nomination.
There isn't in Hollywood a lot of opportunities offered to people of color necessarily. Like, if there's any roles, they're mainly side roles. There's never really major motion pictures that offer for many Hispanics, many Asian Americans, or many African Americans. It's very rare that you see that in the whole scheme of things in Hollywood.
It really just reflects society today. So if we can't even see equal races winning awards, then how are we supposed to act normally in our day?
There were great movies that had a lot of Black actors, but I don't see it because I don't see it as a biased decision to nominate all white actors. I mean, like, if there was some evidence proving that, then I would agree, but right now it's just with it, that was the best movie.
I think the Academy needs to judge it more as an art form and like get all the attitudes, like all the politics and attitudes and any sort of like, because I mean prejudice is a very like dramatic word, but I mean there just needs to be, they need to judge it based on the work, not on the people who made it.
I think the voting should definitely be changed because many people that are part of the Academy are probably 80, 90 years old by now. Like, they are already well established, and with this change, things have changed since the Academy started, like probably over 75 years ago.
The Oscars are a huge deal to everyone who watches it, and even people who don't even watch it, it still sends that kind of message. So the message should be changed.
It always feels like we take 2 steps forward and then we take 4 steps back in the process. Like, yes, there is a lot of sensitivity with like cultural appropriation and all that kind of thing.
I mean, obviously racism happens everywhere, and it's like, yeah, it's just embarrassing. That's the best way to sum it up. It's embarrassing to like live in a place where this still goes on.
We're way better than we were before, how serious racism was. It's just that in people's views, we're not progressing fast enough, which is something we cannot change because in our society there's always going to be racism and there's always going to be racist views.
And how are we going to move forward into making everything all-inclusive and making what America originally had stood for equal nation, an actual equal nation?
On Point's Glenna Dixon has more on this issue.
Thank you, Anna. Joining me today, I have Alex Karova, a comedian, screenwriter, and producer of the funniest feminist show in Santa Monica. And I also have Dr. Marquita Pellerin, a CSUN Africana Studies professor, researcher, and author of The Representations of Black Women in Media. Thank you, ladies, for joining me today.
Thank you.
So, hashtag Oscars So White. This is the second year in a row. It's the hot topic of discussion. And we're also coming to a close of Black History Month. So the main question is, are you surprised that the Oscars So White is happening again? And what are your opinions on the controversy? Dr. Gammage, let's start with you.
So I'm not surprised that this is happening again. Individuals want to applaud the great work of Black and other minority actors and actresses.
Do you have anything to add?
Oh, yes, I absolutely do. I am a member of the Screen Actors Guild, and there we voted on what the best films were of the year and television shows, not just the white ones. And I was appalled at the fact that people of color were not nominated this year, and also no female directors. And it's a literal reflection of the members who make up the Academy. They are old school dinosaurs. They do not reflect what the people are feeling at all. In fact, it is 93% Caucasian, the Academy members that vote on this, 76% male, and the average age is 63 years old. So when you talk to these people, a lot of them didn't even see Beasts of No Nation. A lot of them didn't even see Straight Outta Compton. A lot of them didn't even see Concussion. So they should not be allowed to vote on all films when they didn't see them. And they have no excuse for that because they are sent free screeners. I am sent free screeners as a member of the Screen Actors Guild. The Oscar members are sent free screeners. And I know they didn't watch them because I can quiz them on those movies and find out if they really watch them or not because I really watch them. Yeah. And the smoking gun that really proves how absolutely racist this is that Straight Outta Compton was nominated for one thing, and that was screenwriting. The one category in Straight Outta Compton that was written by white people. Okay? How can you vote for the best screenplay and completely ignore Best Picture and Best Director?
Of course. CTVA CSUN professor Nate Thomas couldn't join us in the studio today, but here's what he had to say. Let's take a look at this clip right now.
I don't know if it's a controversy because this issue has been going on for 30 years. They need to stop talking and do something about it. When I first moved to Los Angeles and started graduate school at USC in the film school some 30 years ago, it was the same issue, and the NAACP had talked about boycotting the Academy Awards. And where there is a thing called a black list, Benjamin Hooks, who was the current president at that time of the NAACP, said, why don't folks do a white list, which means TV shows and movies that didn't have any diversity either in front of the camera or behind the camera. And this is meaning diversity as far as women are concerned, as far as people of color. And they said if you did not go to those shows, did not go to those movies or watch those shows, as far as television is concerned, that's advertising dollars. And there is so much emphasis put on the Academy Awards. You know, if you're an actor and you win an Oscar, that is a substantial increase in your salary. So there's a lot of emphasis put on it. But my point is that my personal choice is I've kind of always kind of been anti-award shows. It's kind of not my thing, and my reasoning for feeling that way is that it is not all the way fair. That there are talented people that will be overlooked.
So Nate kind of propelled us into our next question as far as action. Will and Jada Smith, along with Spike Lee and other celebrities, said that they will not be attending the awards this year. Do you agree with that, or? Sorry.
I think that their decision is a personal decision that the American public have to choose to make on their own. But their decision also is a conscious decision. That decision is based upon years of a lack of validity, lack of acknowledgement of minorities, women and men of color, and in particular African American actors and actresses who have immense amount of talent, who has clearly displayed their skill. And yet there are only certain types of representations of African Americans in particular that have been applauded and awarded. And it's primarily when they are showcased in a stereotype fashion. Whenever African Americans tend to step outside of that box, those representations tend to not be acknowledged. They're largely ignored. And as a result, the Black community in large are fed up to a great extent with that type of treatment, especially since such prestige is accorded to those types of award shows. And although there are many award shows that are dedicated to celebrating the accomplishments of African Americans in particular in media and film, those award shows are considered not as superior. They're less than. And they most certainly, as Nate Thomas mentioned, do not necessarily affect one's pay grade.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move. so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
We taught him how to hit a baseball, how to hit a receiver, the strike zone, the net. You taught him how to hit the upper corner. You even taught him how to hit the open man. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit?
Everywhere that we go, he makes people laugh and makes people smile, and I feel like I have that quality.
He's the one who always takes me fishing.
I watch golf with him.
I watch him cook, because when I grow up, I want to be a cook too.
We have the same faces like this.
Dad is the one, when you fall, that picks you up.
That unconditional sense of presence and reassurance is really what makes him my father.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
You guys going to my party on Friday?
Yeah, dude, it's gonna be crazy.
All right.
What's up, dude?
I'm loving your jacket.
Don't be such a fag.
If you don't mean it, why say it? Words hurt. Think before you speak.
There's also ageism in terms of Oscar nominations. Usually the women who are nominated are not only white, but they tend to look like models and be in their 20s. Even if a woman plays an older role, they will have a young woman put on old makeup, or, you know, a model type of woman gain weight and put on ugly makeup. I remember when Charlize Theron did Monster. It's like, what, they couldn't find a woman who actually doesn't throw up after she eats to maybe, like, you know, gain some weight and be healthy and play her own age. Or when Nicole Kidman played Virginia Woolf, a Jewish lady, what do? They put a prosthetic nose on her and have her play somebody in her 40s? Like they couldn't find a talented Jewish woman in her 40s? Are you kidding me? Or the way they have treated LGBTQ people, which is extremely unfair. They pretend to be so liberal. But what happens whenever they give recognition to some film that depicts gay people? It's always played by a well-known heterosexual. It's akin to having white people perform in blackface and saying, oh, you're not human enough to play yourselves yet. You're not talented enough. So we can't have known gay people who are out of the closet playing gay people. It's okay if it's Heath Ledger and Jake Gyllenhaal, Brokeback Mountain. Oh, it's okay if it's Tom Hanks and Antonio Banderas. Oh, you know, it's okay if it's in Milk, Sean Penn, right? And James Franco. But, you know, God forbid that it should be anybody who has actually taken a stance and come out of the closet, let alone LGBTQ transgender people like Felicity Huffman. She, you know, plays Trans America. Oh, let's not even pay attention to Tangerine, you know, the breakthrough that film was. So what we need is equality, and we need diversity, and we need to boycott the Oscars, because guess what? You're going to be seeing the highlights all week anyway on the news and on every show there is. So why not have a party, do it for civil rights, and watch the highlights later, but do not give them the ratings. Let's give the ratings to the shows like the Screen Actors Guild Awards, where we celebrate women of color, people who are transgender, based on talent and not based on outside appearances.
Alex, you're absolutely correct. This goes back to the idea of this larger normative culture at play, where there's a standardized American culture, and the further you are away from that, the further you are in terms of your looks, of standards of beauty, the further you are in terms of which cultural representations you manifest and portray on film and in the media, the further you are away from that standard and the more you are rejected. And African Americans can't be more further away from that in terms of their cultural heritage, their worldview, and even many of the characters that they play in terms of the media representations. And so given that, then it's not surprising that for so long, for so many years, African Americans, other women and men of color, women, our LGBTQ community have largely been ignored and isolated, largely isolated from these types of award shows.
Okay. So going into the Oscars, Chris Rock has received a lot of backlash for deciding to go ahead and host. So being that he is going to host, how do you both suppose that he approached hosting the Oscars? Being a comedian yourself, Alex, why don't you start?
I think it's absolutely wonderful that Chris Rock, I think it's an act of God that he happened to be chosen for this. Isn't he perfect? So go get him, Chris. People who don't understand comedians don't understand that the good ones, like Chris, are artists who go and confront. They do not run and hide. And I still will not be watching, but we will all see the highlights of it. But I'm absolutely for him going up there and making fun of people right to their faces. And I so love that he is going to get attention and that he deserves, and that I think a lot of people in the crowd are going to be scared who deserve to be scared.
The questioning of Chris Rock's role as host is also valid because it can come off as if he's being used as that token black person, you know, that one speck of black to say, see, black is represented, see, minorities are represented, see, we have people of color. But the problem with that is if they're not actually represented in the actual awards granted and received, then you still have the same issue, even if he's able to bring some humor to the circumstance. And so I can see why people are concerned with his role as the host. However, I think that he does have a unique presence in the media to be able to bring much needed controversy and humor to this.
I know exactly what you mean, but there's a difference between being allowed to entertain and not being nominated versus being a cutting edge stand-up comedian who is going to absolutely confront the issue and embarrass everybody who deserves to be embarrassed. He's a genius. He's going to do what he's supposed to do. He is not, you know, what people refer to as the person who is using this for a career or this or that.
Absolutely.
He's fine. He's not the one who's going to pretend like everything's nice and make nice and do a song and a dance and yay, all right. He's going to knock him
Give
dead.
it to you.
Yeah. But we got to have other parties and not watch that show and just watch the coverage afterwards, as long as it's coming from a station that is pro-diversity. That's what I say.
Only thing we have to be careful of is to make sure that he's not blamed for the lower ratings. To say, it was a bad host, and that's why we have decreased ratings.
He will not be. He will not be. People are not that stupid. And see, the Oscars have underestimated the people because we're not that stupid. Every other awards show absolutely represents diversity. I mean, look at Orange is the New Black, and you know, Netflix, and Beasts of No Nation. All of these great films that are absolutely given, and TV shows given attention to, that celebrate people of diversity, people of different ages, different sizes, based on talent, not based on an old white guy's idea of what's proper, you know?
Okay, so moving into diversity, it seems to be a lot of talk about the men in Hollywood. Being a feminist comedian and having written the book, The Representations of Black Women in Media, where do you feel women fit in this entire spectrum of the controversy? Because we haven't had much for them other than, I remember Viola Davis had her 2015 Emmy Award speech speaking about the lack of opportunity for women. So any light on that? Let's start with you, Dr. Gammage.
Yes, so in the book, Representations of Black Women in the Media, The Damnation of Black Womanhood, I provide a critical analysis of Black women's contemporary portrayal in the media. And I essentially argue that their portrayals have largely been narrowed to these century-old stereotypes. And so Viola Davis is correct. There is limited opportunity, but there also is a lack of diversity in the representations. And I mean, listen, we've been largely ignoring the fact and largely distracted by the sheer quantity, the increased number of Black women in particular in television and in film. And we have largely ignored the fact that majority of those images are century-old stereotypes. We ignore the quality of those types of images, despite the fact that these actresses are phenomenal. And in fact, we clearly see their strength and their skills, given that they're playing these stereotype, non-realistic representations of womanhood. And so it's not their skill and it's not their talent, but the scripts, the descriptions of the characters that they're given largely reflect these century-old stereotypes. We see the Sapphire and the Jezebel coming out, and they're now the modern-day side chick or the modern-day bad bee in that sense. And so she's correct. There's limited opportunity. There's limited frame. There's limited scope in terms of these representations. As a result, their character portrayals have been really narrowed. And so there must be more diverse images, more realistic, more holistic images of womanhood in the media in general.
Absolutely.
And Alex, I do want you to respond, but if we could keep it short, because I do have one more question that I would like to get to, but go ahead.
I absolutely agree. I think Shonda Rhimes has made a big difference in terms of the media, the landscape of depicting intelligent, educated African-American women and all women. That's why I think television is outdoing movies, is because they're more current. And also there's a new show called Billions where they have an intelligent African-American stockbroker. And so, you know, the Oscars is not reflecting that. And a lot of people are very disappointed in the movies that were picked this year because they're rather boring and they've been done before. We've seen these kind of films before.
So when it comes down to it, do you think that the controversy is about race and the lack of diversity, or is it really about money?
Well, I mean, money definitely will determine whether advertisers invest in a certain show or not. And so that's why it's important for us not to watch, and to watch the shows that do celebrate diversity and do reflect us. So that's the bottom line. But it's also related, absolutely, to lack of diversity, stereotypes, all sorts of, you know, prejudice, racism, sexism. And so what we need to do is we need to stop giving them our dollar by stop giving them our eyes, and just give eyes to those shows that already exist, and let the Golden Globes start to outdo the Oscars, let Screen Actors Guild outdo the Oscars, you know, BET Awards. Let's start paying attention where people are paying attention to us, instead of people just paying attention to old white guys.
Of course. And Dr. Gammage?
One of the interesting things is that we oftentimes ignore is part of the history of this. In 1916, the Lincoln Motion Picture Company was created to showcase the talent and skills of blacks in cinematic productions. And it wasn't until 1940 that Hattie McDaniels won the first Oscar, and it was for a supporting actress. And so we see, here we are in 2016, and we can still almost count on our hand the number of African-American women who received some form of Academy Award, in particular an Oscar. The problem comes into play is that when African Americans are pigeonholed into these stereotype roles, they almost validate the reasons why they're not nominated for such awards, when they're only granted such narrow representations. So although, for example, black female producers, production companies, directors, and writers have made major leeway in the 21st century in terms of cinematic productions and in terms of television, we still have a problem with those major companies being housed by the same old white guy, right? The old rich white guy in particular. And as a result, we see that the females characters are primarily reflecting those century-old stereotypes once again. And so when they don't receive awards, it's because their skill level is not up to par, or the script wasn't up to par, when in actuality, they've been largely pigeonholed into this unidimensional representation that is a wholly inaccurate representation of black womanhood.
Unfortunately, that's all the time we have, but thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you.
Come on, let's go.
Just a minute, I gotta finish this.
Wait, you're gonna post those pictures of Mary?
Yep. She thinks she's so hot.
But her mom and dad will see them. Her grandmother, her little sister, everyone she knows, it's gonna kill her.
Who cares? Just a couple of pictures. It's no big deal.
No big deal? Don't. This has gotta stop.
Oh, look, a redhead. Staring contest. You still got it.
I know.
Come alive with the forest.
The dad was cute.
You were looking right at us.
Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you.
Hey, did you know 2.4 million loving cats and dogs in shelters and rescues need our help to find a home? Let's go to theshelterpetproject.org and meet a few who are in a shelter near you. Harlow, oh, she's one great listener who loves to hear all your stories. My kind of cat. Cerulo is a sweet, goofy boy who's eager to please. Sounds just like another dog I know. So go to theshelterpetproject.org, search your local shelters and rescues, and go for a cuddle with your next best friend. Adopt.
Everybody has a dream. Mine was to see the ocean. And with a little help, I made it.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. Get Fire Adapted now. Learn simple steps at fireadapted.org.
Thank you for watching. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter at CSUN On Point. You can hear us on KCSN at 88.5 FM on Sunday mornings at 5:30. You can also watch us on LA 36 on Sunday mornings at 11:30. For all of us here at On Point, thank you for watching. I'm Anna Logan.